You've probably figured out what the topic is, though. It's been mentioned. Choose optimism. And the question is, why? Why do you want to do that? Some places might say, God wants you to. You should choose optimism. But we make it a rule around here. We don't have any rules, but there is one rule, and that's never should on anybody. There's nothing that you should do. I'd like to convince you that choosing to be an optimist is the best thing for you, because truly it actually impacts the neurological structure of your brain. Neuroscientists have demonstrated over and over again that optimists live longer, are healthier, have less problems and less illness than pessimists. And they've been able to do this research by actually looking at the brain firing when people are experiencing one kind of a thought or another. And they can see different areas of the brain lighting up. And the pessimist is located in the right frontal prefrontal cortex. And the optimist is on the other side. And they can see these neurons firing. And it actually makes a physical difference. So this is something just like forgiveness that you do for yourself. And it makes an entire difference, total difference in how life shows up. Because you are a creative being. You have power. The thinking, the attitudes that you carry with you literally broadcast an energy field out into the universe, and it attracts things that are energetically similar. So if you are a pessimist, you're going to be attracting things that prove that there was a good reason for you to have been a pessimist. And if, on the other hand, you're an optimist, you literally are attracting things that will say, see, my optimism was rewarded. Here's a question for you, a teaser. If I try to fail and succeed, which have I done? And there's, of course, no answer to that. That's almost like a Zen goal. To optimists, hardships are learning experiences. And there's a wonderful example from history. Viktor Frankl was a psychiatrist, and he had a wonderful practice in Vienna. And he was living there in 1938 when the Anschluss happened and Germany took over Austria, and life became a little more difficult. And by 1942, he and his wife were shipped off to a concentration Theresienstadt. For those who were tuned in to how many there were. He spent a number of years there and then was transferred to Auschwitz, and from there on to Dachau. And he made some startling discoveries. One of the things that he discovered was that people who were optimistic about an outcome had a much better chance of surviving the death camp experience. This was a very powerful experience for him. He in fact survived. Because when he was liberated by the Americans in the spring of 1945, he set to work back at his study working on a concept. And he wrote a famous book that many have read called Man's Search for Meaning. And what he discovered was that having a purpose is the most important thing that you can choose. He also discovered that he himself decided that he was not going to allow the death camp guards to make him hate. He simply said, there's one thing you can't control. You cannot make me hate you. You can take away every last stitch of dignity and clothing and food and accoutrements that I might have, but you can't make me hate you. And that was a very powerful teaching, and he actually established a third methodology under the Vienna School of Psychiatry called logotherapy. And he was honored for all of this work, and he discovered that the attitude that you had was the key. There were many who were pessimists, and some of them were so deeply disturbed by it that they actually committed suicide before the Nazis could get them. And he just said, this is not the way to live. And that's a very difficult situation to be in. But it proves the point that even in the depths of misery, having a purpose, having an optimistic view will make a difference. It may not, even some of the optimists wound up in the oven, so that may not have been necessarily the sole answer. But at least during that period, they were able to function without fear, without misery. Another example is Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison, as you may have heard, is sometimes credited with discovering electric light bulbs. That's actually not the case. The electric light bulbs had been around for almost 50 years when Edison was doing his work. But what he was trying to do was to make a commercially viable light bulb, because nobody had been able to do that. They had light bulbs that would burn for 20 seconds, a minute, 3 minutes. And he was on a search for the ideal filament that would allow for electric light bulbs to be produced. And indeed, he discovered that. But it took a while. And he had a laboratory in Menlo Park, and he had a number of assistants, and they were continually searching. In fact, he sent people all over the world looking for the right fabric, the right material to make these filaments out of. And about the time that they had reached 650 failures, and this is an example of reframing, one of his assistants was just deeply depressed and frustrated and literally angry about, geez, another failure. And Edison was said to have said, oh, well, that's not a failure. We have compiled a magnificent list of what we know doesn't work. So we'll just keep looking and we will find what does work. And truly they did find what worked and made new gobs of money because they produced the first commercially viable electric light bulb. As they say, the rest is history. So that's a reframing, as Patricia was talking about. It's not a failure. We have a list. We have a long list of what we know doesn't work. So we won't go back to that list. We won't try something that's already on our list of things that we know don't work. we'll simply keep looking until we do find it. And that is the kind of optimistic, energetic activity that creates a field of energy that literally allows the discovery of what did work. It changes how the brain functions. It changes how the energetic field goes out into the universe. And it makes all the difference in the world. So I want to go back to the notion that this is not something that you have to do. There is no requirement that you be an optimist. There's nobody's going to judge you or criticize you in any way for whatever it is that you choose to allow into your mind. And it's absolutely the case that God, divinity, doesn't care how you approach life, because God understands that you're here simply to have an experience. And what you choose to experience for yourself is simply that. It's what you're choosing in the moment to have as an experience. And it simply doesn't matter. Because in the end, we will in fact all wake up and we will all discover the truth of our being, the true divinity that we are, and everything will be just done. So, if you would like to save some time, I invite you to choose optimism, to choose to be the loving, energetic being that you were created to be. If, on the other hand, you want to be, or me, you can do that. There simply is no judgment involved. There's no outcome that will be visited on you. You're creating a life for yourself, and you get to choose. And that's what's so annoying about this place, is that, we're always being called upon to choose. Every single moment we have to choose. We have to choose whether we're going to react one way or another, whether we're going to be an optimist or a pessimist, whether we're going to extend love or we're going to lash out in fear. So I'd like to tell you that this is an easy task, but it's not, because we have well-established habitat. And what Tricia read again is wonderful advice. If you find yourself having a negative thought, a pessimistic thought, immediately say to yourself, well, I have 3 other things in my life that are really great, so I'm going to concentrate on those. And in fact, having a gratitude journal right by your bed is a wonderful practice. Before you hang it up for the day, write in your gratitude journal 3 things that happened today that really you are grateful for, because that is exactly the way that you move from being a pessimist to being an optimist. So, it's always, it's up to you. You get to choose. Open mic time.